Hey there, math students. Today we're going to be talking about unit rates. In the top half of these notes, we're going to be talking about kind of the what, the why, and the how. And down here at the bottom, we will be doing some examples. And then we'll do a couple of examples from your assignment as well. Okay, let's get started with our I can statement. I can understand and use unit rates. And you'll understand why they're called unit rates in just a second when we talk about what they actually are. But first, let's do our warm-up. It says write a ratio for each situation. Labels are very important. Do not reduce. Okay, so we don't have to reduce here. Woohoo! Let's look at the first one. It says Braden traveled 219 miles in 3 hours. Okay, so we'll do 219 and we'll go ahead and write miles. You can abbreviate with MI if you want. And then we'll do 3 hours on the bottom. Okay, it says do not reduce, so we have our labels. It looks like we're good. Let's go on to the next one. Maddie traveled 385 miles in 5 hours, so we'll do 385 on top, and then we'll do 5 miles on bottom. Now you might ask yourself, why wouldn't you put the 5 on top and the 385 on bottom? Now that's a valid question. Right now the way we wrote it, we're trying to figure out how many miles she goes in how many hours. Like how many miles, whoa, look at that, I wrote that wrong. Let me change that really quick, sorry. So the way we wrote it, it's telling us how many miles she goes per hour. If we wrote the 5 on top and the 385 on bottom, that would tell us how many hours it takes her to go 1 mile. And maybe there's a situation where we want to find out that information, but usually when we're talking about speed, we talk about miles per hour, so that's why we write it that way. Okay, let's keep going. So here it says, a rate is a ratio. There's that word again. So it's a comparison between two numbers. A rate is a ratio that is used to compare different kinds of quantities and measures. Some examples of common rates would be miles per hour, kind of like up here. So miles per hour, dollars per, well, you could say anything that you can buy here, but let's say gallon because that's a good common one. So dollars per gallon, or cost per item, etc. The problem with writing a rate like the ones in the warm-up questions is that it's difficult to make comparisons. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and write comparisons. Okay, so let's look at Braden's speed and Maddie's speed. Which one of them was going faster? It's kind of hard to tell, right? I don't know who was going faster. Now, unit rates will definitely help us with that problem, so let's keep going. A unit rate describes how many of the first quantity, when they say first quantity, they mean that top number, okay? So the top number. How many of the top number corresponds with exactly 1 unit of the second quantity, which is the bottom number. Okay, and if that doesn't make sense to you, just stick with me and we'll show you examples and you'll be like, oh, that's what they're talking about, okay? Let's keep going. If someone says, how fast were you going? We don't usually say, I went 150 miles in 2 hours. Usually we put it a different way, right? And some of you may already be thinking about that in your head and figuring it out. We automatically change rates like this into a unit rate. So let's do that now. So first let's write it like we did those up here. 150 miles in 2 hours would be written like this. 150 miles in 2 hours. Okay, so now let's change this to just regular old miles per hour. So if we want regular miles per hour, that's going to be per 1 hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a 1 on the bottom. And we want an equivalent ratio, and I'll show you how to find that. So anytime we're doing a unit rate, you're trying to take the ratio that's given to you and make it into the same number but with a 1 on the bottom. And when I say same number, I mean an equivalent ratio. I'll show you how to do it right now. So how do you go from 2 to 1 by dividing? You're going to divide by 2, right? So 2 divided by itself is 2. So now we're going to do that same thing to the top number. So you're going to take 150 and also divide it by 2. Now 150 divided by 2 is going to give us 75. So if you were already thinking that this meant 75 miles per hour, That's exactly right, and that's what we just kind of computed using our unit rates. Now let's do the same things for Braden and Maddie up here. So if she went 219 miles in 3 hours, the question is, how far did she go in 1 hour? So let's set it up. And we're going to put 1 hour on the bottom. So now to get from that 3 hours to that 1 hour, what are we dividing by? We're dividing by itself, and itself is 3. So let's make sure that we also divide the top by 3. You might want to grab a calculator for this one. I know I do. That's going to be 219 divided by 3 gives us 73. All right, so 73 miles per hour was her unit rate. And again, we call this right here a unit rate because it has that 1 on the bottom. Now let's take a look at Maddie's speed. Okay, we need to set it up with a 1 on the bottom so that we know what the unit rate is. 5 divided by what equals 1? By itself, right? By 5. So let's divide everything by 5. So what is 385 divided by 5? 385, well, hang on. There we go. 385 divided by 5, that's going to be 77. So we'll put 77 on top here. And that is Maddie's unit rate. So here we have Braden at 73 miles per hour, Maddie at 77 miles per hour, and here we go. This other person, I don't know whose name that is, 75 miles per hour. Now, which one of them was fastest? It looks like this one right here was fastest because she went the most miles in 1 hour. Okay, so that is how unit rates work. Let's see a few more examples. Example 1. Write a unit rate for each situation. Again, labels, okay? So Riley did 200 sit-ups in 4 minutes. Okay, so do we want to figure out how many sit-ups he does in 1 minute? Or do we want to figure out how many minutes it takes him to do 1 sit-up? Does that make sense? We want to figure out how many sit-ups he does per minute. So we're going to put sit-ups on top. Okay, so 200 sit-ups per 4 minutes. All right, now to make it into a unit rate, remember we're going to make that bottom number, the denominator, into a 1. So we'll put 1 minute on bottom. How do we get from that 4 to the 1? We're going to divide by something. In this case, divide by 4. We're always going to be dividing by that denominator number because anything divided by itself is 1, right? So let's take the top number and divide by the same thing, which is 4. 200 divided by 4. Wait, wrong number. Try that again. 200 divided by 4 is 50. So that means that Riley can do 50 sit-ups in 1 minute. Okay, so that's his rate. That's his unit rate. Let's go over here to Lily. Now, Lily bought 3 pairs of shoes for $121, and I see a little star here, so that always means to be careful, right? So do we want to know how many pairs of shoes she could buy for $1? That doesn't really work as well as saying how many dollars per 1 pair of shoe. Doesn't that sound, 1 pair of shoes, doesn't that sound better? Sounds a little more realistic, right? So if we want how many dollars per pair of shoe, I can't talk today, per pair of shoes, then we're going to put dollars on top and number of pairs on bottom. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do 121 on top. That dollar sign is your units, your label rather. And then 3 pairs on bottom. Okie dokie. So now let's make that bottom number into a 1 so we have our unit rate. And then we'll get kind of like an average cost per pair of shoe. I can't say this right. Per pair of shoes. Okay, so going from the 3 to the 1, we're just going to have to divide by 3. And that means we're going to have to divide by 3 on that top number also. Let's do it on our calculator. 121 divided by 3 equals 40.33. Okay, so $40.33 per pair of shoes. So that is an easily comparable thing. Okay, let's go on. We call it a unit rate because we're always comparing the top to 1 unit on the bottom. Basically just making the point that on the bottom it'll always be a 1. All right. Unit rates are useful because they make comparisons easy. Absolutely. It's for when you're comparing one thing to another. Okay, let's do some samples here in these tables. Okay. Example 2. Different gas purchases are represented in the table below. Write the unit rate for each line. Okay, gallons purchased 4 here in this first line, and then for price we have this. For work, that just means place for you to write your workout. That's all they mean for that. So first of all, what's going to go on top? What's going to go on bottom? Are we trying to figure out how many gallons per dollar or how many dollars per gallon? Usually we talk in dollars per gallon. So let's put the dollars on top and our gallons on bottom, okay? So we have our 8.56 here on top and we have our 4 on bottom. Now we need what number on the bottom? We need a 1 on bottom, right? Okay, so let's change that to a 1 by dividing the top and the bottom by 4. I'm definitely going to use my calculator for that again. So 8.56 divided by 4 looks like $2.14. Okay, so our official unit rate with the label, I'm just going to write it as this, $2.14. Now I could put the 1 underneath it. That's the same thing. This number and this number are exactly the same. In this case, I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. Wait, with label. I didn't really do a good job with my label here, so hold on a second. Because I didn't write gallons on the bottom. I bet some of you caught that, didn't you? So now we have that. So $2.14 per gallon. That is a much more complete answer. Okay, now let's go on to the next one. We have 7 gallons for $14.98. Same kind of setup here, just different numbers. So let's put our dollars on top, $14.98, and our gallons with label on bottom. Now how are we going to get that to be a 1 on bottom? What are we going to divide by? Yeah, we're going to divide by 7. Good. Okie doke. So what is $14.98 divided by 7? Let's figure that out. 14.98 divided by 7. Look at that. It's $2.14 also. Cool. So I'll write my 2.14 here, and I'll write the same thing here. $2.14 per gallon. Okay. Just a quick note. If you would rather write this as $2.14 on top and then 1 gallon on bottom, exactly like this right here, that is totally fine, okay? But I want you to be able to recognize it both ways. One more problem here. We're going to set it up the same way. We've got the 19.26 on top and the 9 gallons on bottom. So what are we going to divide by to get to that 1 on bottom? We're going to divide by 9. That's good. So divide both numbers by 9. You're going to get 1 gallon on bottom. And guess what you're going to get on top? You're going to get $2.14. So over here, we're going to write $2.14 per gallon. So basically, all of these prices of gas, this one, all of these prices for gas, they are all the same. Well, I can't write. There we go. That's supposed to say same. They're all the same. Now you can see it. They're all the same, but who would know from this? It's impossible to compare these prices. But once you figure out the unit rate, then you know, oh, yeah, they're all the same price. Okay, let's go on to example 3. Okay, a printer purchases boxes of copy paper. Write the unit rate for each line. Okay, so you have someone who prints books or something is purchasing boxes of copy paper. So should we figure out how many boxes he can get per dollar or how many dollars it costs per box? We're going to figure out how many dollars per box. And that's usually the way it's going to work with these dollars problems that involve money. Usually the dollars are going to go on top. So let's do that. $299. And then on bottom, we've got 10 boxes. Okay, what do we divide by to get that bottom number to a 1? Let's divide by 10. Okay, that means we're dividing the top by 10 also, so I don't need a calculator to do that. We're just going to do $29.90. So that means $29.90 per box. Okay, let's do the next one. Dollar's going to go on top. 0.50, and then 15 on the bottom. Okay, we got to get that 15 to be a 1, so let's divide by 15. And if you guys want to pause the video and finish this table by yourselves and then check back in to see if you got it right, that would be awesome. I'm going to do this on my calculator real quick. 442.5 divided by 15 looks like $29.50. So $29.50 per box. Okay, we got one more problem to do. The 703.75. Put that on top. And we're going to put 25 on bottom, 25 boxes. And we're going to divide right by that 25 because that's what's going to give us a 1 on bottom. So 703.75 divided by 25 is going to equal $28.50. 15 cents. Okay, we're going to write that like this, $28.15 per box. So it's just a lot easier to compare now that we have the unit rate. When you're looking at these numbers, who knows what's cheaper? You might be buying in bulk and hoping you get a better deal, like at Costco or something, right? But you don't really know until you divide it out, make your unit rate, and then you know for sure, hey, I'm getting a better deal. Awesome. Let's take a very quick look at your assignment. Okay. So here at the top, this is very much like what we just did. They did example 1 for you, 228 miles in 6 hours. So you're trying to figure out the number of miles per hour, so they put the miles on top. Here we have students and teachers. We probably want to figure out the number of students per teacher, so we will put the students on top and the teachers on bottom. And I tried to abbreviate teachers there. That looks kind of funny. And so we're just going to divide everything by 12. So you'll divide both numbers by 12, right? And let's see what you get. 372 divided by 12 equals 31. So you know you're going to have 31 students per teacher. Per teacher. Make sure you get those units on there. You could also write it 31. I'll just write S. I think that's going to look better, per 1 teacher. Okay, that's how this is going to work. Let's go ahead and look at the very bottom. So they write it out in words here. It says find the unit price of each item around to the nearest cent, then write the answer as a unit rate. So like I said, little tip here, anytime you're dealing with money, you might want to put those dollars on top. So 20 ounces of orange juice for $2.89. So what you're going to find here is the cost per ounce rather than the number of ounces you could buy per dollar. So cost per ounce, you're going to be $2.89 over 20 ounces. And then you're just going to turn that into your fraction with a 1 on bottom and figure out by yourselves what's on top here, and you'll have your unit rate for that. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.